It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. It's budget season in Los Angeles. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, has unveiled her budget that has to deal with an $800 million budget shortfall. So obviously lots of cuts have to be made. Where those cuts are happening, though, might irritate the crap out of you. I happened to watch the first of two public comment sessions for all their budget hearings on Friday at Van Nuys City Hall. I didn't go in person, but I listened to it online. It's really tough to get to that part of town. Plus, I do this show. And while there were definitely people showing up to complain because their specific department was getting cut for whatever youth development does or the gang reduction department does, there were a few things that I was like, really? That's what we're cutting? Including getting rid of domestic violence shelters? That's a little weird. But the one that really irritated me was the fact that Karen Bass, in her budget cuts, has decided to make a massive decrease to the Department of Animal Services that could not only lead to a whole bunch of job eliminations, but could also lead to 3 animal shelters closing outright, including West Valley Animal Shelter, which is right around the corner where I am now. I adopted my first cat from LA Animal Services. I went to East Valley Shelter. Sure, I'm still irritated that they told me she was a domestic short hair, and she's neither domestic nor short hair, but that's another story for another day. Let's find out why the hell Karen Bass is cutting the animal shelters of all things when she won't cut the homeless budget. Let's go to Fox 11.
LA Mayor Karen Bass's proposed budget could hit LA Animal Services especially hard. Tonight, animal advocates are speaking out to Fox 11's Haley Winslow, who joins us live from West LA. Haley.
Alex, it is gut-wrenching going into the shelters because no matter how you look at it, there's no easy solution. And unfortunately, the same story that we're telling today is very similar to the ones that we've told in the past.
Yeah, these shelters are already so underfunded. There are so few people able to help. They screw over the volunteers. Management's been terrible. But yes, let's cut the department even more. Although our buddy Daniel Gust.Substack.com, he wrote a whole column how we should just keep cutting the funding so we can get rid of all the insane management.
Only this time, volunteers say, it's only gotten worse. Veteran Dominic Vallejo saves his new best bud, Leia.
It makes me feel good knowing the fact that she has a background like I have a background. She was the only one that didn't bark and just sat there and looked at you like, hey, pick me.
Yeah, that dog was getting out.
Many dogs won't have the same fortunate fate, especially with the mayor's proposed budget cuts to LA Animal Services. City Controller Kenneth Mejia fears this would eliminate 32%, nearly 1/3 of staff positions and the care animals receive.
And if you've been to any of these shelters, they're already so woefully understaffed. You remember that story last year where an employee of LA Animal Services was alone with a very, very, very aggressive and neglected dog that attacked her, and no one was around to help her.
Mejia is doing an audit to find out what many want to know. Where has the money been going?
These dogs are starving to death, and I really want answers because they're losing so much weight, an insane amount of weight. And I actually asked if I could take the skinniest one, the most emaciated one, to my private vet, and I was denied. Why? Why is it so hard to help animals? Why do the shelters make it so hard? What?
Well, because the city of Los Angeles is a massive, messy bureaucracy, and Animal Services is just yet another one of those departments. $100,000 decrease in the budget for animal food, which is 30% of the budget. So what exactly are we going to be feeding the dogs and cats and bunnies at our shelters?
And now the mayor wanting to cut the budget.
This city shelter volunteer knows firsthand the horror that goes on behind these walls. She says, most importantly, LA is a kill city.
When a dog gets youth listed, they'll take a dog off the website. They'll put them in the back where they're not available to public view. So they're setting this dog to die and then giving them the littlest chance to get out of the shelter as possible.
Yeah, all this nonsense about LA being no kill is a bunch of nonsense.
How many dogs a week would you say get euthanized that shouldn't be put to sleep?
At like South LA, I know weekly it could be 5 to 10 dogs are getting euthanized.
Just because overcrowding?
Overcrowding, yep. That we often are able to get them out when we're not able to get them out at this shelter. We bring them cheeseburgers, we play with them, we give them love, and at some point...
Getting a dog in and out, that's a good person right there.
We bring them cheeseburgers, we play with them, we give them love, and at some point a member of staff comes out and takes the dog back, and that's the last we see of them.
God bless the people that work and volunteer at those shelters. I could not do that. That is a lot of emotional heartbreak.
It's got to be so heartbreaking.
It is, yeah.
With the proposed slash to the budget, these innocent eyes only hope more kind hearts open their homes, like this veteran for his Princess Leia.
I am so happy right now because of the fact that, like, I have somebody that's actually going to love me for who I am.
Hey, dogs give you unconditional love. I receive it every single day, and my two little dogs improve my life so much. The cat is also here.
Despite those reports that 3 city shelters are closing, LA Mayor Karen Bass's spokesman, Zach Seidel, sent us a statement, and he told me that that's not happening, that they have set aside funding in the unappropriated budget to restore those cuts. And he said...
No, that she put out the budget, and she's the one that said, here's the cuts. And a whole bunch of departments didn't get cuts, including homelessness. But no, we got to cut animal services, which the entire animal services budget is 0.5% of the general fund. But yeah, that's where the cuts had to be made.
And he said he actually sent me a post from Mayor Bass from November of 2024 that said they had adopted out the most animals so far that year. Now, of course, it's 2025. Since the wildfires, volunteers have told us it's only gotten worse. Reporting live here in West LA, I'm Haley Winslow, Fox 11 News.
Yeah.
So there you go. The budget cuts are coming. Now, they're not final. The city council can still debate these things. And there has been a lot of outrage at the city council, at Fridays and today's public comment, about the fact that of all the waste that we have in this city, of all the things that we spend money on that's totally useless, we're cutting the budget for animal services. We're potentially closing 3 animal shelters. If you have a problem with Karen Bass cutting the animal services budget and not the homeless budget, give me a call, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What do you think about Karen Bass's budget cuts, including closing animal shelters in Los Angeles? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Betsy in L.A. Betsy, hello.
Yeah, I'm incensed. This will not happen on my watch. Unite, Angelenos, and spread it throughout the nation that this is what you'll have if you have a communist mayor. She's totally insensitive to creatures and what they provide. She has no sensitivity. And who's next? The homeless? Will you just euthanize people who are living on the street? She's so insensitive. That's what communism is all about. Don't fool yourself for a minute. She has no sense of spiritual acknowledgement, and she's wakened a sleeping giant. So, Angelenos, this will not happen. This cannot happen. These people are our employees. Don't let them get away with this. Fight, 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 fight. I mean, this is not a laughing matter, but no way are they going to euthanize these little creatures that give us so much love. So I don't want to keep going over and over and over the same thing, but it needs to be driven home that we have to organize and unite. Never give up. This woman is evil, and even staying away from being in South Africa when these fires were coming up, a city official should have the jump on something of that magnitude. She didn't have the jump, neither did her minions have the jump on that as she gaily went to some festival in South Africa. some presidential
it was
thing.
Ghana, yeah,
I
where
mean,
she went
said,
to the inauguration of the president. Thanks so much for the call, Betsy. I feel your passion. And yes, we got to do everything you can if you don't want to see this happen, including writing and calling your member of the city council if you're in Los Angeles, posting on social media, doing everything you can, because this is unacceptable. Even though there's a $1 billion budget shortfall, the city's budget is $13 billion. There's no money for the dogs and cats? What the hell? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. And honestly, if you opened up and you asked some of the people that have huge wallets in Los Angeles, whether it's the tech bros, the celebrities, somebody would fill that shortfall. But why aren't we doing that? What the hell? Let's go to Kelly. Kelly, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Yeah, there are some solutions here. I guess I was just listening to the prior caller. I'm a little taken aback. This has nothing to do with communism or Karen Bass being evil. Everybody can have their opinion on whatever that's all about. But the reality of the situation is there is a shortfall. And you can, of course, talk about all the reasons, but that doesn't solve the problem. So I was in those budget council, city council meetings on Friday. And I thought I was walking in to listen to just the issues around the animal shelters, but there were people there talking about cuts to senior services, cuts to Meals on Wheels, cuts to programs that support victims of domestic violence, youth programs. What was a common theme there was that it was all of the most vulnerable populations and causes that were being cut. And that was very saddening to me. I have an animal rescue, and I deal with the fallout of the shelters 24/7. I get calls that think that I'm the shelter when I'm not. So I deal with this in the streets, on the ground, every day. The shelter I have a lot of respect for. Not everybody is on top of their game, but I do have a lot of respect for them, and what they deal with is what I deal with. One of the big problems is the irresponsibility of pet owners, that people, I got a cane Corso and now I'm moving into a small apartment. Can you take my dog? I get this at least 20 calls a day, and the shelter gets probably 40 of those calls a day, so they have to handle that as well. So I also don't want to throw shade on the shelter, right, because they are dealing with constant crisis. It's like a war zone. Now, okay, that's our reality. Can we deal with a solution? Here's a solution. Business taxes have something called impact fees. So if you know anything about business tax, dry cleaners pay one, they come in one category, bars come into another. An impact fee is when you are, for example, you sell tobacco or you sell cannabis or you sell alcohol. And whatever you're making money off of is impacting the community, and it has costs attached in impacting the community, whether those are healthcare costs or drunk driving costs if you're selling alcohol or whatever it is. To the best of my knowledge, veterinary clinics do not, if you are in veterinary care, you do not have impact fees at this point. But here's the reality. About 60 to 70% of all the vet clinics in the city are not owned by mom and pops anymore. They're owned by huge multinational corporations, Mars being the biggest. Mars, as in the candy bars you used to eat as a child. Mars Corporation.
They own all the vets?
Vet
I didn't know that.
Oh, they own Banfield, Blue Pearl, which is True Care Vet in Studio City. They own VCAs, which are the most common vet clinic you'll see around town. They probably own about 40%, and there are other venture capital-backed groups that own another 20 to 30%, I would say. Here's what the venture capitalists understood about 5 years ago, is that people would do anything for their animals, and they would pay any amount of money for their animals. They would spend money on their animals' health care when they won't spend it on themselves. They'll spend money on food for their animals when they won't spend it on themselves. And the biggest demographic for that are people 20 to 30. Why? Because they're not having kids. Those are their children. So the venture capital said, wow, let's get into that business. Look at what we did in human health care. Let's apply the same strategies to vet care. Let's take over all these clinics. We'll streamline them. That's how they're pitched. But in fact, they doubled and tripled the prices of vet care. And anybody that has an animal that's had to, unfortunately, take their animal to the vet for anything other than routine services, no. You walk into let's say an ER, right, an emergency clinic for vets. You don't walk in for less than $1,000. Vet care has doubled and tripled in cost. So what happens? What happens in a city that is losing housing, affordable housing? You have people want pets. You know how important they are. Your whole show has been about that. It gives people emotional support. It's their connection at times when they have no other connection. So you have people
of course,
with
but I
pets.
think your point is here, Kelly, that it becomes too expensive with how expensive it is to take care of animals nowadays. It is.
So then what happens?
I do
They get
pretty well,
dropped at
and
the
I could
shelter.
barely afford my vet bill sometimes.
Listen, brother, it's shocking. So those animals then, in an absolute emergency, because I get these calls, people have to drop their animals at the shelter because they simply can't afford them. One of the saddest calls I ever get is someone that has a senior dog and they can't afford euthanasia. I have many times, and, we're not a huge rescue. We don't have millions of dollars in the bank. But I have many times paid for euthanasia on pets because can you imagine? I mean, they can take them to the shelter to be euthanized, but then they just have to hand them over, and maybe they lay in a cage for 12 hours until the vet tech or the vet comes in. And their owner is not with them at that transition point. So what's happened with the takeover of vet clinics by venture capitalism and by these massive chains is that vet costs have doubled and tripled. Also, people now cannot afford to get their animals spay-neutered. And although the city has a spay-neuter program where they provide vouchers, there's only 6 of those clinics in the city that do that. Try to get an appointment. I get appointments because I'm a rescue. I get other people appointments when they call my rescue. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can get you an appointment. But it's hard. So if you are a working person, a normal working folk, you're going to work at 8 in the morning, you're working till 5 or 6, you're only off on the weekends, and the low-cost clinics are not available on the weekends, your daughter wants a puppy, and someone down the street has a puppy, and you get her that puppy. Well, that puppy grows up now, and you find that to go to any clinic, any any VC clinic in town, it's going to be somewhere between $300 and $1,800 to get that dog.
Oh, it's unreal. So you're thinking impact fees for these chains, these vet clinics that have made so much money, and putting that money back in the shelters. That's your idea? We're running short on time.
Absolutely, because guess what? They are not They are not this local government's constituents. So the local government is not going to be impacted or lobbied by those people. They are pulling an enormous amount of money out of this city and out of the state, and they are in Virginia, or they are in Connecticut, or they're in Berlin, or they're all over the world. So they have, I'm not going to say they've created the problem. There is a problem, but they certainly exacerbate that problem, and I think now they need to be part of the solution. So I walked into this budget council meeting, and I was the last to speak, right? So by 5 o'clock in the afternoon,
I watched it. I watched you speak the
hours.
other day, yeah.
Oh my God. So they were, here's what they heard. Wah, 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 like Charlie Brown's teacher, right? They just heard that. And they're all looking at their phone.
They're not paying attention. And they don't care at all.
I wanted to communicate with Bob Bloomfeld because he is a council person that really cares about animals, but he had already walked away and was talking to the cops, to some police that were standing next to me. So I don't think they heard anything that I said. And I said to them when I walked up, I said, look, I'm not here to talk about your budget problems because you're going to cut the budget one way or the other. I'm here to give you a solution, but I can't do it in a minute. What do you want me to do, an elevator pitch on how to solve all your problems right now? I'm a business person. Can we sit down and talk about it? So today, I put a plan together over the weekend and I sent it to their offices. Do I believe that they're going to see it? Do I believe that it's going to rise or bubble to the top, or is it going to get lost in the chaos and the screaming and the gnashing of teeth about the budget talks? I'm hoping that somebody goes, well, that's possible. I'll tell you another thing, one more thing, because you probably have to go. But I heard somebody talking about, one of the volunteers talking about food, that they buy cheeseburgers. So we are in partnership with several PetSmarts around the city. That's where we do our adoption programs. And so I got in touch with corporate and said, look, you guys throw away tens of thousands of pounds of food, right? You're unpacking a pallet and you slit that cellophane and you cut a bag and you throw it away. And that's horrible when there's so much need out here. And, they came back with, liability and blah, blah, blah. But they did come back and they said, there is a program through Hills Science Diet Foods. They have a program to support shelters, but we just looked, and the LA City shelter doesn't take part in that program. And so, I put that on my punch list. Let me get the budget things dealt with, then I'll go to that. And then my last project, hopefully before I die, is to open 10 high-volume, low-cost spay-neuter clinics, and that would provide general care, too. I want to take the VCs on. I really do. Not that I
think it's really noble. We're out of time, Kelly. Thank you so much for the ideas. I hope that Bob Blumenfeld reads them. We'll continue to talk about this, but we are running up against a break. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Karen Bass, in her budget cuts, is looking to cut the animal services budget to the point where they might close 3 shelters and lay off a whole bunch of people. Is there better places we could be cutting in the city of Los Angeles? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Karen Bass is threatening to cut the budget to LA Animal Services to balance her deficit to a point where they lay off 100 staffers and they would close 3 shelters. And not only that, they'd cut the food budget. A lot of other cuts include domestic violence shelters. That would get cut. Senior centers and senior Meals on Wheels, that's looking to get cut. That homelessness budget, looking strong at $1 billion. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Your reaction to Karen Bass threatening to cut the budget of LA Animal Services even further. 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We're taking your calls right now at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Karen Bass, in an effort to save $800 million on the budget, is looking to make massive cuts to LA Animal Services, eliminating jobs, cutting down on dog food and cat food, and possibly closing up to 3 shelters. That make any sense to you? Let's go to Kevin in Upland. Kevin, hello.
Hey, good afternoon. Hey, I would just like to point out that if we took the $1 billion, the $1 billion, well, first, that last caller should be director of animal services for the city of Los Angeles. She's brilliant. But
she's great.
Previous caller talking about, yeah, she's perfect. At any rate, the $1 billion homeless budget, we all know what a disaster that is. It continues to be. We're already euthanizing the homeless. We kill 3 homeless people a day die in Los Angeles under this budget. It is clearly a failure. We should cut that budget in half, take care of the animals, and continue to, even with, if we cut that budget in half, we'd still lose 3 homeless people a day in the city of Los Angeles. That's going to happen no matter if we spent $10 billion. We need to just
the number's actually higher, Kevin.
Budget.
Kevin, that number is now
3 a
7
day?
people a day. It's 7 a day.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't up on my statistics. That's the last number I read was 3 a day. At any rate, it's a $1 billion failure. It's just ridiculous. If you stop and think about how much money that is and what we're getting for that money, it's mind-blowing. The animals, yeah, let's just cut that budget in half and spend that on the homeless shelter. The battered women's shelter, the pet shelters, this scam of these major corporations screwing everybody over the vet bills, as the last caller explained. There's so much more that can be done with this money. The homeless are going to continue to die no matter what we do. That's 7 a day. That's crazy. We're paying $1 billion for what? They can't even audit that.
Well, exactly, because a lot of that money is going to nonprofits that have no way to prove that they did anything except make money. It's job-creating nonsense, and it is money that has not been well spent. And if you're going to cut any budget, that's the first one that you cut. But no, cutting something as essential as animal services, that's unacceptable. Thanks so much for the call, Kevin. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Joe in Hemet. Joe, hello.
Hey, how are you, Randy? Randy, a couple basic things. We need to start cutting from the bottom real quick. In my neighborhood, we have a guy that drives a Corona work truck every day to and from Corona. We're paying for his gas while his new truck sits in the driveway. Raul Raiz, my congressman, has 3 offices, Hemet, Palm Springs, and Indio. Since 22, I've gotten 3 phone calls back with 27 pages trying to get him to help us. What is he doing? What are we paying for 3 offices for? We need to start at the bottom. Second of all, our 4-legged friends are the best. And me personally, if I had someone said you have to euthanize a squirrel or a person, I euthanize the person all the time. And can we get a euthanization organization? Let's get rid of the real animals euthanized, animals like bass and Newsom. These are the people that should be euthanized, not our pets, man. It's terrible what's going on. They're stealing from us. They're killing these animals for nothing, these precious animals that are so loyal and good to us. And one other thing, watch Rocky Kanaka and his wife, what they do to try to save these animals. They're better than us people. They really are.
They totally are, and that's why we should be doing what we can to protect them. Thanks so much for the call, Joe. Appreciate it. There are so many places in the budget to cut, but cutting animal shelters, domestic violence shelters, senior services, shouldn't those be the last things to cut? It's unacceptable. There's got to be better ways to do this. And when we're still spending close to $1 billion a year on homelessness, programs that have no trackable results, that are a lot of times just enabling drug addiction, and in some cases funding people to pass out meth pipes, that is not something that we should be prioritizing. Budgets are about priorities, and obviously Karen Bass's priorities are not animals. So you can do something about this. If you live in the city of Los Angeles, you better get the email going, the pen going, and the phone going all at the same time, and reach out to your local member of the city council and tell them this is the priority. This is what you care about. Because I know there are a lot of, I don't know if Karen Bass even likes animals, but you know what? There are a lot of members of that council that do, and make sure you get your voice heard. There are other places to cut. This is unacceptable. We could be doing a lot of smart things too. The fact that the city has never properly funded spay and neuter is a huge problem. Why do you think there's such overpopulation? There have got to be things we can do. There are better solutions. Karen Bass is cutting the budget of animal services to balance her $1 billion budget shortfall because she blew all our money on the homeless. What do you think? Do you think it makes sense to be shutting down the animal shelter so Karen Bass can keep funding Inside Safe? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls, your reactions at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Is Karen Bass's only way to balance the budget cutting the animal service department to the point where they have to lay off people, screw over volunteers, cut off the food, and possibly close 3 shelters? I don't think that makes any sense. Let's go to Karina in L.A. Karina, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great.
I think that what they're doing is they want this emotional reaction from everyone, you know, like, oh, the dogs, the domestic violence, the elderly. So all of the real vulnerable people are exposed, right? And so then ultimately, you know, there will be enough fuss about it, and then they'll raise taxes, you know, either property taxes or pass some measure of some sort to be able to get more money from LA residents or, you know, just folks in California in general. I think that that's what this is, and everyone is, you know, emotional about it, and that's fine. But ultimately, they'll get their money one way or another.
Well, they are looking to increase trash fees, and I'm sure they'll be like, well, if you don't want to cut these programs, then we'll need to make it more expensive for you to live here. The problem with that is the budget for the city is $13 billion, and they spend $1 billion a year on the money hole that is homelessness. And I don't think if you polled regular citizens, there'd be more support for keeping the animal shelters open than Karen Bass shoving all the homeless in a Motel 6.
Yeah, well, I think the homeless is another story. I think that's just politicians weaponizing homeless to try to acquire more property on the, cheaper on the dollar. That's what that is. Because if you look down at Skid Row, they got really nice apartments going up now, and the homeless, they just continue to be pushed around through the city, and of course property values go down because the folks, defecate on the sidewalks, attack people, break into businesses, so business owners can't get out of there fast enough. Plus, if no one's renting out these locations, they get hit with the vacant tax, commercial vacant tax. So it's a win-win for them regardless. So they're not going to get rid of the homeless anytime soon.
I think you make a really strong point about what's been going on in Skid Row. Thanks so much for the call, Karina. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Can you think of any better places to be cutting the budget with Karen Bass's shortfall than, I don't know, shutting down animal shelters? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones on Karen Bass cutting the budget for LA Animal Services. Let's go to Mark in Vegas. Mark, hello.
Yeah, well, there's so many things to it, but the main thing is they're using that to launder money, just like the Democrats. They're finding out about all this government waste and stuff. They're doing it to make up jobs they don't need, and then they're paying off friends or paying companies and saying they're nonprofits, and it's all a lot of it's going back to them. It's just a big money laundering scheme, and half the people that live in California don't care because they just want to work and live here, and then the other half are just corrupt, and you have so many people from other countries, they don't know what's going on. So they're going to do that forever, probably. That's why I don't live in California anymore.
Well, it's a very fair point because most people that you talk to that live in California are very politically disengaged. They don't really care what's going on. They care about what's going on in their lives, and that's fine. But when you have such low voter turnouts and you have such little disengagement in one party state, you have room that is open for corruption for things like spending $25 billion on the homeless without any actual tracking of where that money went. So you're totally right, Mark. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Dale in Long Beach. Dale, hello.
Hello, Randy. Here's a prime example of why the city of Los Angeles doesn't have any money. As you're probably well aware, the Department of Water and Power, the last hiree, makes $750,000 a year, almost twice as much as her predecessor. Why, Randy?
Well, because Karen Bass thought she was so exceptional at her job. No, it makes absolutely no sense why Janice Quinones needed to get $750,000 to run LADWP. That's an insane salary. Barbara Ferrer making $600K for public health. Insane salary. And LA City Council members making $220,000 a year, all 15 of them. That's a colossal waste of money. Their staffers make $200,000 a year. It's unacceptable if they...
Here's something you probably never even heard of. The California Interagency Council on Homelessness. They have $1 million budget a year.
There's so much glut out there. There's so much waste out there, but they don't want to cut the programs that their friends are involved in. So they're going to cut something that's incredibly vulnerable that affects everybody, like animal services, or they're cutting domestic violence shelters. What the hell? Thanks so much for the call, Dale. Appreciate it. We're not letting this thing go. The budget hearings are going on for the next week or so. We'll see how the city council reacts to this, but with a budget of $13 billion, even if they're short $1 billion, there is so much money that is being spent on nonsense. I mean, do we need to go over again the nonprofit that we were funding that was a front for an actual gang? how many crooked nonprofits out there? We have got to do better. We have got to do better of managing our money. And I think starting first, maybe it's just symbolic, but you know what? If Karen Bass, the LA City Council, and all of their top staffers took a 30% pay cut, we could fill that $5 million budget shortfall and keep animal services going. It honestly should be funded more, not funded less. That's something where if you actually did well, people would like you, and maybe they'd vote for you to stay in office. But we're not letting this thing go anytime soon. So thanks so much for participating in the show. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.